Yeah. Today I'm live, not real live, recording.
Oh my god! I'm like, you didn't say we were broadcasting live.
It's live for whenever you watch it, right? Kind of
Yeah.
like. So I'm joined by William Hammersla, not Hammerslack. That's someone else you will find on Skype probably, who is the Australian coach and has just been to Japan, right?
yeah. For the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, still branded as 2020.
Love it. Do you think you will find like fake merchandise for 2021 somewhere on Khao Road in Thailand, probably?
Surely. Someone's like, they'll change it, but they didn't. It's everywhere. Tokyo 2020. It's in a time warp.
Okay, so and now you're back. Where are you now? Like, it's a blurry back. It's
Yeah, I'm sitting in hotel quarantine for 2 weeks, which is longer than the time we were in Tokyo. We were in Tokyo for 12 days, and I get to be in hotel quarantine for 14. So, sitting in a Novotel on where was I again? I think I told you earlier, and I
Darling's Wharf in Sydney.
Darling Harbor. That's it.
Darling
Darling
Harbor, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's beautiful. It's such a beautiful view. Giant, like huge window, very nice room, but you can't leave. And yeah, it's a nice holiday now though. So
Was it worth it? 12 days.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, like even there's there's a handful of moments for me that are like cream. Like obviously the Australians, Tom and Osh competing was amazing. And I've known Osh since she was 9 and have coached her almost since then. And to see her then stand up.
Yeah, gotta give it to you right now, because when we met, and sorry to interfere here and to interrupt you, when we met in 2016, I think it was, I didn't know who you were and I didn't know who Osh was, but we were running like a little workshop and I wasn't able to move because I had a shoulder injury, and the boulders, I think looking back, was all like stone age. But we were like, okay, what about the Olympic Games? And you were like Osh McKenzie, and I was like Miho Nonaka, and I think we both made it somehow.
Yeah, we were both right, but surreal, man. That's so long ago. This is it, back in Sydney at 9 degrees.
Perfect.
I have a really great video of you dancing. You're doing some dance for the kids.
Usually, like when I have my stick brush just pointing to home.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to point out was like 5 years ago, you knew what was going to happen. You brought one of your own athletes to Japan.
Yeah. So that was special. Like that was a really special thing. So watching them compete on that stage was pretty phenomenal. But then like 2 other big, well, yeah, I'm going to keep coming up with more, right? Yanya, the female podium was like spectacular. I mean, just that having Akio Noguchi standing on the podium for her last event in the Olympics, that was amazing. But then Nathaniel Coleman, men's boulder 2. What climbing like that for me as a coach, that was perfect. Like that was perfect. I think it was 3 attempts. Each one was like slightly better than the last, well measured. That was just silver medal, right? Like that was the moment, really. And then Jakob Schubert coming out and topping the route as the last climber, changing the whole podium. What? Oh, that was like, that was surreal too. That was surreal.
How far were you away? Fanboying right here. Like, where did you sit as a coach? Like, how did you?
During qualies, you get to sit like right. You know how they've got the lights sitting in the front of the stage. You're sitting like just behind that. So there's the officials that sit there, and then when you sit just behind the officials, usually screaming something.
Yeah, I heard you yelling at Tom. But
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think I got that's the message. I can't see you, but I can hear you. It's what I got from everybody. And yeah, I mean, it's interesting because when you're in the Olympic Village and you're doing the Olympics, it's a very, very surreal, foreign feeling. You're there with all the other sports, and there's athletes that the basketballers. Athletes are big, like in general. You have we were there with the wrestlers, the basketball players, and these athletes are giant humans. You're like, I feel quite big as a climber, and then you go there and you're like, I'm so small. Oh my gosh.
Do you get a formal introduction, to each other, or do you just bump into each other and you're like, that's the honey badger, yeah.
Yeah, well, everybody meets at the food hall. Everybody meets at the food hall is like 2 levels, and the hot food is all around the outside, and you just like cruise around and get basically anything you could possibly want, and that's where you bump into people. It's like, well, basketballer. It's like, that's a wrestler, and everyone's got these name tags, and it has your sport on it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course ours, and it's abbreviated. So to be like, I'm trying to I think it's athletics would be like ATH or something like that. And sport climbing, which is what we were, was CLB. Everyone's like, CLB. What sport do you do? Yeah, so that was surreal, and we stayed in this. We're all staying in these multi-level apartment buildings, and each country has their own floors, and they're within the building there's services. So in the Australian HQ, which is pretty amazing when it comes to the standard of all the countries. We had nutrition, recovery. So in the basement there's ice baths. So the standard of service is unlike anything we've seen before.
Yeah, I heard Australia had a barista, as the only country. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, there's 2 coffee machines, a grinder, and 2 baristas working almost full time for the Australian team. So we would go down and be like, I was in Melbourne. I'll have an oat flat white. It's like someone would be like, I'll have a short black with a pinch of milk and topped up 2/3. So it's just like, oh yeah, no problem. It's like, where am I? Yeah. And we would have people from other countries trying to come and get coffees as well. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So it was foreign in the village. Everything was the volume was turned up on everything. The amount of uniform we got, I got 2 suitcases full of Australian uniform. I have Australian team rain pants, cool. But then you go to the venue, and it's basically all of that is run by IFSC. So as soon as you step into that space, it feels very normal. That was pretty cool because I expected to feel very out of your depth, right? The first Olympics, and it's like, oh my God, where am I? But yeah, as soon as we got there, all the officials are IFSC officials, all the coaches, everybody, and so it was this little climbing, village kind of sitting out there at the venue, and so that felt very homely. That felt very known and pretty cool. So yeah, it was worth it. Yeah, it's worth it. 14 days in the hotel, no problem. Yeah, no problem at all. To answer your question.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, that was the question. Was it worth it? What a stupid question, of course. Going to Japan alone and then going to the Olympic Games for sure.
Well, you don't get to leave. So we went I think the USA team spent some time in Japan first, and maybe the Austrian team, but the COVID regulations for the Australian team are a little bit stricter. So we came in, and the team I think is bigger. So when we came in, like my accreditation wouldn't work because the coach that I was coming in for was leaving. So you only have so many accreditations in a country, right? So that coach was leaving. So by the time I got to the village, my accreditation could then be changed over. So I took that spot. So we were much stricter, I think. So we didn't get to leave the village. It was the village and the venue, and back to the village for the 12 days. And so we didn't get much like culture, I guess, but they'd done such a great job of the village. The food was amazing. The volunteers were incredible. They had autonomous driving cars, which was wild. They had this like space where it was like a little gift shop. They had a hair salon, a nail salon, so you get your hair done, your nails done before the event.
It's great, a spa day.
It was legit. Like the day before, Osha and I went down and just did this like self-care day before the event. And the other thing that was pretty wild about it, and people probably would have seen this in the stream, but as soon as climbers came down, it was a camera in their face. You know, it's like someone didn't do very well, or like a foot slip, or upset, and like the camera's there, and they follow you into the back behind the wall. Just these poor athletes just start like sobbing and being like, "Oh my god!"
Looking back, that's part of the Olympic Games, because before a 100 meters start, everyone is just like, "Dude, I'm here. I'm gonna win this race," and I'm sending kisses out and greetings. But the only climbing starter, I think, was maybe Alexandra or one of the Russian girls. Just like she was really talking to the camera, and Jakob was just yelling into the camera. I didn't know whether this was like a greeting to his family or Innsbruck or like whatever. Just like at least he interacted with the camera, I think, in a really nice way. But everyone else was just like, "What are you doing here?"
Which and I think it's because it's so new. Like you don't really get that at World Cups or World Championships, right? So the media, I think, was probably the biggest thing that on the comp day was so full on. You know, the athletes would finish all 3 rounds and then they exit through the mix zone, which is just behind the wall. And it's like film crews, print media, like media. And the coaches can't follow. We can't go in and get them. They have to go through that themselves. And it's, you know, it's a circus. They don't call it a media circus for no reason. Just like microphones everywhere, and it's full on. It's full on.
And the climbing, maybe like putting the circus aside, like did it feel different? Like because of the stage, was the stage like elevated? Did they have like a fog machine? I'm a big fan of a fog machine, you know, like artificial fog just to clear it.
You know, it's interesting you say fog machine, because I did see a fog machine actually, but it was in the crowd. Like, and there was this TV, this video thing where they were talking about how all of the ways that they were trying to cool down the spaces at the venues that was a little more environmentally friendly. So I had a feeling that it had some like cooling purpose, but there was a fog machine in the crowd, like in front of a fan. So this fog machine would like emit like dry ice, and then it would be fanned out across everybody in the audience. But yeah, the venue was stunning. Actually, I think it was all of the events were in a line, linear as well. So it was speed and then boulder and lead, and the lighting was incredible. From every angle, there's like, when you look at the wall, there's like no shadows on the bouldering wall, which is that's like impressive lighting. And then they also had I think they call it the matrix effect cameras set up. And I think it was for Boulder 3 for finals, both nights. So they have these like cameras pointed at the boulder, and then they would pause time and like spin around the athlete.
You were able
And
to see that on TV, like the bullet time effect. Yeah.
yeah, that's amazing. Like, and to achieve that, they had cameras. Those cameras were positioned like all along the front of the stage.
Mm.
And so athletes would come down off of speed, and because they hadn't made the platform wasn't quite long enough, you've got people like running for athletes, trying to grab them so they don't land on the cameras. But it was stunning. It was beautiful, and I personally think the bouldering wall was very beautiful as well.
Mm.
And just from how people went, it felt like semi-rounds. It felt like semi-final rounds. I don't feel like the route setters really. It didn't seem that they changed their tact significantly. You know, like the both 4 boulder qualifiers seemed like semi-final rounds. They were both hard. And the lead route as well probably looked like it was a semi-final standard. You know, the female didn't get topped. You know, they were hard. It was all hard. They didn't really look like they pulled any punches.
Did you feel like the pressure, or like were you able just to feel pressure of any, like Laura Rogura, for example, like just looking at the screen, like she felt like she was under a lot of pressure. And other, like Jungwon's first speed climbing day, that was like terrible and awesome at the same time.
Yeah. I think a lot of the athletes were rattled, and it was hot. Like it was really hot. It was over 30 degrees Celsius every day, and it probably ranged from like 60 to 80% humidity.
That's Brisbane. That's like Brisbane all the time.
Yeah. And so, and the other thing is like the entire event lasts for like 4 hours, right? So the intensity of the event is pretty high, the combined event. And because athletes are warming up, competing, cooling down, warming up, competing, cooling down. You know, you do that through like 3 cycles. And I think the addition to that is that there's media in the warm-up area. So when you're in the playground, they were calling it, there's cameras there. So there's cameras getting background footage, you know, just like recording everything.
Oh, crazy! Like in the isolation zone where to warm up, because usually IFAC events doesn't allow anyone to go in there.
No, there's camera crews. There's a camera crew in the warm-up area, so you're never off camera as well. So that persona or that you never get that moment to yourself, like that internal moment, which I think a lot of athletes probably need before they go out to get in the zone. So I think that's all new. That's a very new thing for, I think, a lot of, you know, professional climbers in the comp scene. And so, yeah, the pressure was so high. I think in particular, the European athletes probably would have felt it, because selections was quite challenging. I would have thought that the Japanese athletes like Tomoa and Kai would have felt it because it's hometown. Like, especially Kai, like.
Yeah, I think Kai, like you really were able to see like that bouldering was not. I was surprised that he was like, when I can say slow, just slow on the speed wall. But when it came to the bouldering, it was devastating, disappointing, like for him. And I did expect to see some tears. Yeah, why not? It's just like the biggest event ever in your hometown, and then you have a day like this.
Yeah, and it was interesting because looking at the boulders and also watching the athletes on them, qualifiers for me, I didn't anticipate to be so challenging for the athletes. They didn't present as like a really hard round, but that's what we saw. And I think a lot of that is from pressure, like the amount of attempts that you go through and watch people again, right? And there are athletes that would have like 30 attempts on the full boulders across that round. It's huge. You know, the amount of energy they're wasting in the bouldering round, and then they have to back that up with lead, and people were tired. You know, had no skin.
Yeah. The most important, or like the most impressive guy when it came to like a lot of attempts was actually Alberto. Like I've never seen someone like he was on the whole lead circuit this season and doing like this bouldering World Cups, and then he spent like so many tries to top or not even top that many boulders.
Yeah.
And then still
like
being
Alberto
that fit on a lead route.
Yeah. Alberto on the last boulder in the final, I thought that he was going to bleed. He got on that boulder so many times, you know, and like, and tactically, like you look at some of the decisions that some of the athletes are making, and they get the zone, they have like 30 seconds left, and they're getting back on the wall. You have a lead climb to do after this. You know, so I think that knowing it's being streamed and having that media, they're just like, it's a show, get on. I have to get on, I have to, you know, impress people. Like, it was actually quite funny, a South African climber, Chris Kossa, amazing person, by the way, hilarious, just like a very entertaining human, was talking about his experience of getting on the very first boulder. And he was like, oh yeah, I know people probably like tune in, and they just see this like South African kid like run up to the wall and just like slide off. Like, what is this?
But he was doing well. Like he found the edge underneath.
Well.
And I was like, that's good route setting for like boulder number one, because it looks like it is, but then it appears to be something entirely else. What did you think about the crimping? Like, did you think this is worthy to be broadcasted? Like we as filthy little gross climbers just crimping the edge of the flat hold volume.
The top of that. The Routesetters seem to have trouble with the volumes on that wall. Like the flat hold, the Rock City volumes, nothing looked like it was sitting flat. So I wonder whether there was some like slight curvature in the panels. But because it was like the edge of volumes, they had to block bits and pieces, and they were testing it, and you know, so I don't think it was for a lack of trying, but yeah, that was everyone just like going up and just crimping the razor edge of the flat hold.
I think I think I said it before, like they must have known the route setters for this boulder, and they just taken it into account. Either you crimp it, you find the beta or whatsoever. Did you have any like contact with the route setting team? Like, because normal like at IFAC World Cups, a route setting team has to be neutral, but like as a coach, as an athlete, as like every time I attended a World Cup, you can talk to the route setters. Like you really have a good time with them.
Yeah, they were there. They came to the tech meeting, but yeah, the flow of traffic for everybody, for the coaches, and also for the coaches zone, was quite strict. I would say like, and the barriers were high, and because of the filming, the stream, I don't know how much like communication with officials there really was. You know, for the most part, we watched, and I think there was one appeal the whole event, which was at the end of the female final.
Yeah, what was it? Do you remember what it was?
I'm not super sure, but I think they were appealing Miho standing on a draw. I think, but I'm not sure. You know, so there wasn't a whole lot of interaction, and it's interesting as well. Like talking about appeals, the appeal process because of the Olympics, I think, has changed too. You know, we used to go to events and you'd be waving money at judges for, you know, your 75 euros with your card. And they're like, oh, well, we can't have that at the Olympics. Imagine a live stream and coaches are just there waving money at the officials.
So how does it work?
So it's paper now. And the invoice amount gets invoiced to your national federation. And you have to like reference the rules, but yeah, I thought that was interesting. It's there's no cash involved anymore.
You just think like enter your PayPal account and then you get a hot button, just like appeal.
Yeah, appeal. Oh dear. Big spender. I wonder which team is the biggest spender. The French.
Because they have the biggest team to the youth World Cups and youth championships and stuff like this, and the senior. Yeah. They always have a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I feel, just because we're talking about France, I really feel for Barca with his bicep. Like, that was so unfortunate. And it changed everything.
Did it?
Well, I mean,
we felt it changed everything, you know, like I was scared of Adam getting a medal or Adam winning, and then being like, okay, that was like not fair because you had like secured your speed spot, and then we will have no revenge. You know, you need Joe Frazier versus Muhammad Ali, not the first time, you need the second and the third time. And you want and if this would have happened, everyone would have been like, yeah, that's like a little bit salty, right? But Barca, it's a shame. But in the end, what did it change? Adam had the best time in his life ever speed climbing, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we thought that he would just finish, but he didn't. He went for it. Yeah. Well, it's just interesting, right? Because I think that Alberto wouldn't have got first in speed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, true.
But then Tomoa probably wouldn't have been racing Alberto.
Yeah.
It just goes on. I mean, it just goes on, right? Like, yeah.
It's a little bit like time travel, right? Like Back to the Future, or all that like interstellar stuff. Like, what would have happened if we would have just like changed it?
Yeah. But you know what? Like, even as a coach, I wouldn't say not as a coach. I love it. It's great. Because the thing for me is that it's like a really great example of competition climbing, or competitions in general. Because I think sometimes people mistake this idea that this competition is going to tell us who the best climber is overall, which it doesn't. That's not what the competition is. It's a game. We've made up the rules, and it's who can play the game the best. Right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You know, and it was so much fun to watch. And really, that's what it is, right? It's a show. That's why it's called a performance, because the athletes have to perform.
Yeah.
They're performers.
True that. I just thought about like when you said like, it's not fair. Like one of the first days was bike race, like the street race, and it's just like you have the sprinters and you have the climbers, and then it's just like it goes flat, and then there's Mount Fuji, and I'm like, yeah, that's nice. That's some nice cruise design. Like, what are all the sprinters doing there? It's not fair, but I enjoy the show. It's just Pogacar against the others, and then it's just like this guy from Ecuador whose name I forgot, like Tour de France, like came third, but he won the gold medal because he made a shot. But all the sprinters are like, cool to be here.
Yeah, and that's it. That's sport, right? You know, it's like there's. I think a lot of times, and I would say that there's probably still some sports that it's like the 100-meter race, right? The 100-meter race probably is an example of who is the fastest over 100 meters. Probably. But at the same time, there's so many sports that have so many other factors involved. It's not really this like this person is the very best in the world. But that's also not what it's for, really, right? You know, it's who does the best on the day in those conditions with the tools that they had, you know, and it's a show. Yeah.
Yeah. I wish it was a little bit more obvious who became like first, second, and third, like a little bit quicker, because I'm not really stupid, but I'm not really good with numbers. And when I'm excited, it's just like, okay, wait, because I was really afraid that Adam could kick everyone off, and then I was like, oh wait, Jakob is coming. Jakob could do the same, but where does Adam end up? Is he got bronze? Maybe bronze for Adam's nice, but hey, wait, how does it work? And then for the girls, it was even more like Alberto, for example. Like, when did he know that he won? Like, did you see that? Like, did you, or was it like just everyone looking at everyone and just like, I don't know what's going on?
I think out of all of the reactions, Alberto's was the most interesting because he had no reaction. He literally looked like he was in shock. But, you know, it was just like, how did this happen to me? Where am I? I'm not even sure he knew who he was. You know, you look at him, he's like, just like stunned puppy. At least like Miho, Akio, and Yanya all cried and hugged each other, and you're like, oh, it's so beautiful. You know, Jakob had a very good celebration. Jakob's celebration was probably my favorite. And you know, Nathaniel Coleman seemed quite happy, but yeah, Alberto was just like, I'm not sure he ever realized. But yeah, definitely looked like he was in shock. But yeah, you know, I think that in Paris it'll be a lot easier for us to see. And I think the other thing I'm excited about with Paris, and not to take anything away from what the event that we just had, but we'll actually get to see some like real speed climbers, and speed climbing will be able to exhibit to the world. And as much as I love bouldering the most, right? As someone who doesn't know climbing, they're going to fall in love with speed climbing. They're going to love it.
I love a world record, and I love the Olympic record. And it's just, you know, it's just like, it's so cool to see that stuff being broken and be like, oh man, you are the fastest swimmer alive. Like watching all of Michael Phelps, like something you can at least like measure. It's like, yeah, like I don't care whether it's 9A or 8C plus, like it will be different next year. And next time it doesn't it doesn't stand forever what you did on this route.
Yeah, and it's the and watching that world record, that was another moment. That was incredible. Just like, so close in qualifiers too. Like it was like a 10th of a second off or something, 100th of a second, and then to watch that happen in finals was sensational, just sensational. But yeah, I agree. You know, and I think that's people are going to fall in love with that. You know, people are going to lose their minds over it. And I think they'll have a similar relationship to the boulder and lead that they do with gymnastics. You know, it's like you watch like Simone Biles do something that's outrageous and then step out of the box and you're like, that wasn't very good, was it? You know? It's like this incredibly difficult. No one else in the world can do it. You know, we all become judges.
But I wish we could have like style judges. That would be so cool. Like I would be like a really bad one because it's like, you go Tomor, you go, you do the diamond, and you look at me, everything's fine, you get your 10. But you know, like of course, like I watch diving a lot. And I know that this triple somersault must be like really impressive because I would break my neck for sure, but it has like a 7.5 and then you get like notes for it. I don't really get how it works, but at least there's a judge telling, or 5 judges, and they make like a combined note. I kind of like that as well. Thinking about like whether we should set like 3 different kinds of triple dynos, or the one gets 5 points, and then you get an execution style notes, and then the other 7.5, and there's another almost impossible one.
Yeah,
doing the impossible. maybe this would be easier, but also too much work, right?
Yeah, too much work to change. But I think that the bouldering and the lead will be really great for climbers. Like as a climber, the climbing community are going to love it. They're going to love that part. It's going to be, I think that people will enjoy it because it's climbing, and they'll tune in and be like, "That's really cool." But I think there'll be this like cult following of speed climbers after the next Olympics. I just, people will be like, people will know, it's like, oh, the world record in speed climbing, man. Are they going to get under 5? Like just you'll be talking to some random person. You're a climber. Oh, the world record. They'll just know about speed climbing, So, but I suppose the boulder and the lead will be for us. So.
Yeah, but maybe it's like part of our personality now, or has to become like, what's my PB? Like I run below 10. Like I'm an average climber, and if you run below 10, like imagine, wow.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Have you done speed? Have you done the speed climb?
Only hungover, and I did a 14. And I don't know whether it was like the long one. I think it was only 11 meters. But I'm totally, so I flashed it.
Nice.
Easy,
yeah,
nice.
I'm
but I'd like to give it another shot. Yeah, maybe we should do it at some point.
Yeah. I've done it a couple times. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the speed climb, and the story of the speed climb is amazing as well. With Jackie, like, if I knew it was going to be this important, I would have spent more time on it.
But I like it. Like people want to change it, and I'm like, why? Just like keep it. Like no one changed like 100. Usain Bolt did really well, good job. No, but maybe we should do it into 95. Like, no, dude.
I think you get rid of that one hold. There's a hold that could probably go.
But isn't it like just a memory that someone else came?
History.
Like there's two more. Like I'm not a speed climber, but I will climb straight up.
And Tomoa slipped on the Tomoa skip.
Yeah, it's all new. I wonder whether he will continue just speed climbing from time to time without any pressure and just be like, "Hey guys, I'm Tomoa. This is my forte, like boulder, and I climb a little bit of lead, but I'm actually quite good at speed. Like I run below 6 if I want to."
Yeah.
Just get around for the money.
I asked Tom and Osh if they would keep doing it. I think at the moment they're both like, no, no, I'm not going to do it anymore. But
yeah, but they don't have like speed walls just next to them, right? Like Tom always had to travel to Sydney, Villawood, and Osh to what is it, North Side or whatsoever. Like, yeah,
Gravity Works has
one.
Yeah, that's true. So like access to the speed is tricky in Australia, but I think they'll get back to it. I think they'll miss it. I think they'll get back to it. They'll do a little bit of it, and it's good for training too. Like people don't. I think sometimes people don't realize what the benefits are of like doing some speed training. It becomes so much more powerful, and you get the flows.
Yeah. And you feel like weightlifting. When did you ever like do some weightlifting before for climbing? Just like
cool. Exactly.
Yeah. How was it for those two? Were they like, of course, a little bit intimidated, but did they have like, what is it like going into the Olympic Games? Like, did you like any mindset? Did they just like go to the Olympic Games like, okay, I'm a visitor from Australia, or I'm going for my lucky shot? Is it?
Yeah. Oh gosh. I think that as Australian climbers, they definitely, I would think they definitely felt like the underdog. Definitely not the crowd favorite. But then I think the other thing, and I'm sure everybody feels this, and everybody's kind of had to deal with this. It was the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, and it happened in 2021. We had 6 years. Oh no, 5 years leading up to this event, which is a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that the pressure of that, and like the amount of work that we had to do just to get them into gyms, into climbing gyms because Australia had some tough lockdowns. You know, Melbourne, I think Melbourne, we're up to our 6th lockdown at the moment, I think.
I think gyms were more closed in the last 12 months than they were open.
Yeah.
They're not like commercial gyms even.
Yeah. You know, so just organizing access was the challenge. And so all of these things, I think all of those things just, I just think added to this huge amount of pressure that they put on themselves, that they felt like other people were putting on them too. You know, you get to the Olympic Village and they get a free mobile phone with like free earbuds, like any piece of uniform they possibly need. There's maybe like 20 or 30 staff at the Australian HQ who are there to help them, you know, and it's like we're trying to, you know, and as a coach as well, like we want to make their life easy. So all they have to do is focus on climbing, but all of this stuff just for them, just for their moment, you know, I think that pressure is massive. And I think that watching them after the event, you know, you could see that it was like this, the planet had been taken off their shoulders. You know, so yeah, it's a really big thing to have happened, and I think that it's probably going to take a long time for it to fully settle. You know, for them to fully understand what it means to them and what that pressure was that they felt, and all this. So probably just in time for Paris to come around.
3 years. Yeah, let's see what like. Yeah, I don't know. I hope they will change, or like when it comes to the IFSC, that they will change the continental things a little bit. Like, doesn't concern Australia, but I'd like to have like South America included as well.
Yeah.
Somehow. Yeah. So for the qualification, we just need more people somehow.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way, and then hopefully bowl us back to 4.
Yeah.
But I haven't thought that much about qualifications yet. Olympics. So, like, one question I had on my mind, maybe it's a little bit intimate. How much saliva did you have to spend for all the tests?
Liters. We oh my God. So, okay, first of all, we're going to talk about this. We had 3 COVID tests before we left Australia. The first one, the nurse was just like, "Oh, this test is so bad. It's going to be the worst." And it was, I mean, I barely noticed. It was this tiny little flimsy bit of paper that kind of went up one of my nostrils. I was like, that was fine. And then the second one that we had was like both sides of my throat and both nostrils. And I was like, oh my God.
Did they go like all brain? Because that was like...
It was pretty bad. But the last one, the one that we got before we left, she measured my finger, and that's how far she went.
What?
Yeah, yeah. This far. Oh my God. Okay. That was next level. And then, so we get to the country, and they're like, you're going to have to do the spit test. So before you land, you have to like not eat or drink anything for like 45 minutes before the test. And you finally get through all of the immigration, all the paperwork, which probably takes, I don't know, probably took like an hour. And then you get to the testing. They give you this little tube with a big funnel. And like, okay, we need you to spit. And they sit you down, and they have all of these pictures of food. It's like, we want to make your mouth water. Oh my God, it's very Japanese. You know, little anime characters, just like with holding plates of food. And anyway, so I'm sitting there, I'm like, I spit, and like, you know, the tube's like probably as thick as my finger, and it's like a full knuckle deep is how much. And you're like, no problem, easy. One go, I spit. And I'm like, oh, I think I'm done. And the nurse comes over and goes, that's like all bubbles. It has to be all liquid. I'm like, oh, I'm so dry. I'm so dry now. And it's hard. It's so hard to get enough liquid spit because most of it is like bubble, right? And we have to do it every morning. So every morning you wake up, the first thing you do is spit into a vial. We did that for like 12 days. And it was so much spit. It is so much spit. Oh gosh. Yeah.
I just wonder, like, would you like to be part, like, member of the spitting committee? You know, like, okay, we need all the stuff here, and then, I got a good idea. We need pictures of food, frame of beer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice idea, Will. Good one.
It's not. Yeah. Let's do that. That's a great idea. Make their mouth water. I was surprised they didn't like pump like the smell of popcorn into the room or something. You know.
A lot of odors. Like, how many people were sitting there? Was it just like the Australian team, or were there like people lined up? Just
yeah, everyone, like everybody was there, spitting, sitting down, spitting. Yeah, it was. It's full on. No shame. No shame.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, that was a great insight into your trip to Japan and the Olympic Games, Olympics 2020, 2021. Maybe we should do some merch. I think we have to do some merch for Paris 23 or 25. Do some really good fake merch, like with a North Face, a mountain just mirrored to the other side. I've seen this before.
Love it. I love it. That sounds great.
I don't have any questions anymore. I feel like I've been there, especially like with the barista. Like, I'm missing a really good flat white and just going down and be like, oh yeah, just. I love that your Australian team had a good time, and that you had a good nail treatment and facial treatment and whatsoever. Anything else you want to add about we should know, or you really enjoyed about the Olympic Games?
Anything else? I feel like I've talked about everything, but there is one thing. One word of advice I'll give to anybody.
In general, is it like a life advice? Like we can?
No. It's not that serious. No, it's just if you ever get the chance to go to an Olympics, right, to be somebody that's participating or a coach, or you're going to the village, your nation will probably give you a packet of pins. Like pins that have a little backing, and they're like something on the front. It'll like have your country or something. Those things are worth more than money. You trade them with other countries' pins, and it's serious business. Like, it is no joke. We're standing standing out the front of the food hall, and there's this person there, and you look at them and you're like, why are you here? They look very strange, and they have this like thick folder. They open it, and it's all of these pins from countries and years, and they're collecting, and it's just like, oh man, what do you want for this like serious sales? What do you want for that one? Oh yeah, how about this? I'll give you this for that. Oh no. It's just like pin collecting and pin trading is a real thing. So be ready.
But how do you get into it if you're not an athlete? Are you just like looking for a sport where you can continue forever and ever, or are you just like?
Yeah, maybe a coach, or you can be an official. Like, you could go in and one of the people that are the officials, plus the volunteers. The volunteers start trading pins. You'll be catching, like, we call it the autonomous vehicle, and like there's like a driver and attendant. The attendant will stand there and just be like, will come over to you and just be like, do you want to trade some pins? You're like, well, I'm just trying to get to lunch. Yeah. Pin trading. Get ready. Be ready for this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see if we ever make it to the Olympic Games, because we should do some fake pins as well, like from non-existing countries.
I back that idea 100%. Yeah, let's get some fake country pins into that circulation.
Just trade it and exchange it. Any athlete you always wanted to meet and you were able to meet, like Jan Hoyer met Luka Doncic, like this one NBA player. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. To be honest, I spent a lot of time while I was there attending to athletes' needs. I didn't get a lot of time. Didn't get a lot of time to do other stuff, unfortunately. But I was in the same room as the BMX coach. So I got to meet the Australian BMX rider that won gold. And it was the first time BMX was ever in the Olympics. And that was pretty cool. And I watched his gold medal run. Oh my gosh. That's a sport. That was cool. And it's judges, giving you points. Yeah, it was pretty, yeah. That was pretty rad.
Nice. Yeah, can't wait. Only 3 more years. Good to go.
Like no time at all.
Couple of hotel quarantines, we're already there.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, Will, thank you so much for talking to me about the Olympic Games, and I hope we will see each other before the next Olympic Games. And I will stop the recording now, and we will say bye.